There she is. Sorry, I was running really late this morning, getting everything going.
Sorry, I thought I had my AirPods connected, but I guess they're not. Pretty good.
Let's see
I
here.
just finished putting the data in from our questions into my spreadsheet. So hopefully, and then I read chapter 10.
Okay.
So,
So how do you want to start looking at this? So I got two things I was going to do. I was going to help you with the new Unit 3 homework, and then the two problems from Unit 2 that have a problem just like them on the final exam. I was going to walk through those with you so you can use those to get ready. So where do
okay,
you want
that'd
to
be
start?
great. Is anybody else joining?
I don't think so.
Okay.
A couple expressed some interest, but
Okay.
nobody really replied. The people that need it the
Okay.
most
Yeah. So
are not answering my emails. So
yeah. Okay. So sorry, I'm trying to get all my tabs worked out because I have us in my spreadsheet and the textbook. Yeah, I don't know. Where do you think is best to start?
So we've got. Well, I'm not sharing my screen yet, am I? Here we go. Share. I'll just share my desktop. So whatever is showing. Oh, that's not what I wanted to. Okay, you see a spreadsheet now? Okay. I like this better when I'm at home and I have more monitors to look at instead of just the one laptop. Okay, so we've got this problem.
Okay. Is that from? Wait. Is that from our homework? The new homework?
Yeah, from the new homework, we got Chapter 10, Exercise 2, Chapter 10, Exercise 4. There are problems just like these two on the final. Okay?
Okay.
And I mean, when I say just like, it's different. It's a different word problem. It plays make believe. It's a different business, different numbers, but it's the exact same approach. Okay.
Okay.
We've got this one that I'll just solve with you and show it to you. There is not one like this on the final.
Okay.
Then this one is similar to Unit 2. I'll get you started. I'm curious to see how much of it you can solve. I give lots of generous partial credit on this one because this is the most challenging problem I give in the semester. There is not one like this on the final. But if we back up and look at some of your earlier work, this is from your earlier homework submission.
Oh gosh, yeah.
We'll
all over the place.
We'll rework this problem because there's one just like it on the final. Okay, and we'll rework this problem because there's one just like it on the final.
Okay.
Yep. 7A. Okay. So, were you able to get yourself started on this one on 10.2?
I had just put the data in.
Okay.
And I hadn't started it, but I can. I mean, we can. I'm trying to get it to work. I have to reload the textbook page every time because this is one of the ones where it blanks it out. So
really,
just reloading my textbook so I can see the actual question again.
Okay, so
I cleaned off a bunch of stuff off my laptop, which just helped it not shut down. Because I was on Reddit, and I guess it's pretty common for older MacBooks to just not be able to do Excel and a bunch of browser tabs at the same time. So I think that was why it was shutting down.
Yeah, MacBooks are not great with Excel. I don't know why that's such a problem, but it is a known problem.
And mine's 2017, so it's getting pretty old. So I was like,
yeah.
I'm just trying to, one more year of school. Come on, let's get through this. Okay, so 10, and it's the question 2.
So let's this is a simpler problem than people want to make it be. Let me think for a second here. I might stop sharing and peek at something else for a minute. I want to make sure I lay this out in the cleanest way possible for you and don't chase a bunch of rabbits on you. So I'm going to stop sharing for a second.
I have the same layout right now, at least as what I see on your screen. That's what I put in.
Okay.
just like copied the thing pretty much exactly. Minimum total cost.
All right, so you can see that spreadsheet. I'm going to open something else for a second. Open.
Okay.
Okay, that is the cleanest way. Prices, quantities, limit, okay. Okay. All right, you can still see the spreadsheet, right?
Mm-hmm.
All right, so first, and this seems like a trivial thing, but do put in some kind of, dummy values in your decision variable area.
Okay.
Oop, I'm going to save this as something else. Save a copy. Ba-ba. Three homework, tutoring template. Abby. There we go. All right. So do put some kind of dummy
so
values
just
in.
Putting ones in.
Say again?
I already get stressed out. Dummy values stress me out because I know that doesn't matter, but I feel like I'm always putting the wrong numbers in.
It
doesn't matter.
You should be a little stressed out on a Mac. So the dummy values you pick can make a difference on a MacBook. It's irritating, but it's true. But don't worry. If you pick dummy values that cause your model to converge to an incorrect solution, I'll be able to tell what happened. So I'll never take points off for that.
Okay.
But you put something in just to make sure your
cool.
formulas are working, right? Okay. Now,
right.
I populated this. Good, cool. I'm good. Now up here, these are prices, right? So according to the problem, these are 5 different engine components that were bid by 5 different suppliers. So component 1 from supplier 1 cost $25. So these are dollar bids. So to build your intuition about this a little bit, how is Solver going to treat a blank cell? What's it going to assume that is? It's going to assume it's a
zero.
It's going to assume it's a zero. When Solver tries to minimize your cost, it's going to assume, ooh, look, supplier 4 gives us component number 1 for free, and it's going to give you an incorrect solution. So in order to keep Solver from going to the incorrect solution, you've got to put in an out-of-range bid that's easy to see. Okay, I like using $99.99. Okay, in this tiny data table right here that's 5 by 5, you could probably look through and find it if you put 1,000,000. But I know you're going to HR, you're not going to analytics. If you had a big data set that was 10,000 wide and 100,000 deep, it's easier to find something like 9999 than something like 1,0,0,0. So we're going to put those in. Yeah, so since supplier 4 doesn't want to sell us component number 1, in order to give Solver that piece of information, we're going to tell Solver, don't worry, supplier 4 is super expensive on that one, so we don't want to buy from them. So compared to $25, almost $10,000, we don't want to buy from them. Okay, we have our demand by item from the data table. We're going to have a supply amount. So this decision variables, I'm going to add a note here. Whoops. Oh, I'm having a week, I'm telling you. This is quantity by supplier. Okay. So what we're trying to decide is how many of each of these components are we going to buy from each supplier. That's the decision.
Okay.
So the amount of supply is the sum of each column. That's how much of each component we're going to get. Okay. Then the sum of each row is how many eaches we're going to buy from each supplier. Does that make sense? Oh, come on.
It was making sense. So the okay, supply is the sum of each column?
Yes.
No, row, because it's 1 through 5.
So the supply is the sum of each column. I'm going to add a row here so I can add some more labels. So this is component 1, component 2, component 3, component 4, component 5. So from the data, we know that I need to buy 40,000 of component 1. I need to buy 10,000 of component 2, so on and so forth. Okay? And I'm buying from these 5 different suppliers. So the sum of this column, have I bought enough of component number 1? Have I bought enough of component number 2? Have I bought enough of component number 3? And because I know what part B is going to ask us in the problem here, it's going to give us some constraints on we can't buy too much from any one supplier. I'm also summing up how many eaches are we buying from each supplier.
Okay, should I put anything about that part?
Yeah, let's, what do you want to call it? From each supplier?
Yeah, sure.
Oh, I wish I had more than one screen.
Okay, so then that'll be...
Yep. Okay. And now, so we don't forget, so one of the things we need for this problem is we're going to need to have a constraint. We need to make sure the supply meets the demand, right? I'm going to make it blue so I don't forget to use it a little later. Okay. And now we have to calculate a cost, okay? Because we're going to try to minimize our total cost. So our objective is minimize total cost, right?
Yes, because that's, part A.
That's it. So I'm going to, because I'm really uptight about color coding things, I'm going to make it green. I'm going to put a box around it. I know it's going to make it a little bigger column. It's going to end up being dollars. Okay. And I'm going to put a formula in here. Okay. So I'm going to show you what's really happening, and then we're going to use a formula to make this easier. If we had, we know the cost of component 1 from supplier 1 is $25. And if we bought one of them from that person, we know it'd be $25. Great. And I would add to that, oh look, component 1 from supplier 2 costs $28 times the one we bought from them, plus the next one, and so on and so forth. Okay. This is when the sum product formula is super, super helpful, because the odds of me being able to do this over and over again for this whole array are pretty low. I'll have a typo, right? But if I say sum product and I highlight this whole array, oh, my brain will work today. Should have brought my mouse in here. See, I'm already at work for the day. I'm in California today at corporate office, and
cool.
I'm hiding in this little small conference room so I can talk to you for a few minutes. So if I do sum product and I highlight this first array, comma, highlight the whole second array, close parentheses. Okay, so you can see what the formula is there. Sum product costs by eaches. What that's doing is it's taking the first cell and saying, how many of the first one am I buying times the cost of the first one? How many of the second one am I buying times the cost of the second one? And so on and so forth for the entire array. Okay, so if I hit return, it gives me a number. Okay, so it's 60,959 just with these ones in here. So this dollar number is going to get much bigger, right? Because in a second here, when we populate solver, we've got to tell solver that this array has got to add up to the same things this other array adds up to. One of my other early riser coworkers is here. Okay, so that's it. That's the end of the setup for part A. It's that simple. Okay, so let's go into solver. I'm going to click data, solver. I'm going to hit reset all, doink. Okay, my objective is this one here, and I want to minimize it. by changing the variable cells, this whole array, right? And that feels funny for people who haven't used Solver before, but I'm not going to solve the problem. I'm going to create relationships between the data and let Solver do the heavy lifting, right? So it's going to decide all of those. And my only constraint for part A is that I need this supply to end up being equal to this demand, right? That's it.
I'm trying to put that in, but my solver is already starting to mess up. So I mean, it's not solver. It's my computer.
It's okay. You can just you can follow along with mine while we're talking, and then you can watch the video and see if you can recreate it. But that's it right there.
For sure.
Okay. And I'm going to click solve. And I say okay. And I'm going to make this column wider so I can see the answer. And the total cost for all those components ends up being $4.8 million. Now, so this looks cleaner. I'm going to reformat the numbers to be less decimal places. So I don't care about those decimal places. You don't have to use the integer command in Solver to do that. You can just change the format and you'll be able to see a cleaner looking number there. So you can see, and this is where you do your gut check, your intuition check. You say, hey, earlier supplier 4 was a blank for component 1, remember? So we put a large number in to make sure we didn't use it. So I'm going to look down here and see that, hey, for sure, supplier 4 for component 1, we didn't buy it. Okay, so great, that worked like we expected it to. If we kind of glance through this, we can look like, hey, it looks like supplier 1 kind of has the lowest prices on everything up here, and that checks out because supplier 1 is the person we chose to buy the most from. Okay, I'm going to reformat that too. Okay, so that's the end of part A. It's that straightforward. Okay, there's a problem exactly like this on the final, including the part B part. So we're going to do that. Keeping teaching you folks that are using MacBooks how to use a Mac for Excel. So if I want to copy this tab, push and hold the control button, easy for me to say, and then I click on the tab and it gives me this menu option, and I'll say move or copy, create a copy, put it before 10.4, click OK. Now press and hold the control button and click, and I can rename that tab now, and this is just part B. Okay. Now we're going to build part B. Now what does part B tell us? Supplier 2 is capacity constrained and cannot provide more than 25,000 units in total. So I'm going to look over here and say supplier 2. Well, they're only doing 19,500. I don't know why that's a problem then. Well, okay. But we got to add that constraint. The manufacturer does not want more than 2 million allocated to any one of the suppliers. Okay, so if we add that constraint, so we have to figure out how much we're spending with each supplier, right?
Right.
So we have this constraint we have to add: spend with each supplier. Now this is pretty straightforward. So I'm going to do it two ways so you can see it. So one, I'm going to build the manual formula. So I know that I wanted to buy 31,000 from supplier 1 of component 1 that costs $25. So I multiply those together and I add to it the 0 of component 2 that would have cost $9,999, but they don't want to supply it, plus the 20,000 items at $55 we wanted to buy, plus 5,000 items at $42 we wanted to buy, plus the 21,000 items at $40 we wanted to buy. Okay, so I'm going to go ahead and format this as a dollars so I can see it. So we're spending 2.9 million with supplier 1. Oh wow, the book says for part 2 I don't want to spend more than 2 million with any one supplier. So when we create this added constraint, Solver will change these quantities. So this ends up at 2 million or less. Okay. Now, because I don't want to type that whole formula again, sum product of just row 2 for supplier 2, comma, times the costs from supplier 2, just row 2, close parentheses. See that formula? It does the exact same thing.
Yeah.
Okay?
Okay.
I know I'm repeating that a lot. Make sure folks understand that.
Yeah. No, that's great.
All right, so I copy that down. Okay.
Okay.
Now down here, oh, I cannot type today. What is wrong with me? I've got a max spend. There we go. So I'm going to use the max formula and say that, hey, the maximum of any one of these, okay, and a little bit needs to be less than or equal to that 2 million limit for part B.
Okay, so when we're typing it in the like that's kind of like, I mean, is that like you're typing in your constraints basically?
Right. So I'm putting
there.
a number for my constraint in my spreadsheet, and in a minute when I open Solver, I will point Solver at this, and I'll say, and I gave you this visual, so that when we're inside a Solver, you'll see we'll do the same thing, and I think you're one of the ones that confused the idea that typing something like this in my spreadsheet would inform Solver to do it. So on your prior homework, you typed it in your spreadsheet, but you didn't tell Solver about it. So in a minute, we're going to have to make sure we tell Solver about all these things. Okay.
Okay. Could you type it onto all one cell, or do you have to do the 3 separate ones like that?
So you don't have to have this cell right here with the less than or equal to at all. You just have to have somewhere in your spreadsheet a calculation for what is my calculated real spend, and then somewhere in your spreadsheet you have your constraints, your new constraints. So I have 2 million spend limit, and I also have a supplier 2 25,000. Is that how many it was? Yeah.
Yeah, because I think part of my issue was I was typing it all in one cell, and then when I was trying to put it into Solver, I was like, well, I can only reference one cell, but you have to do like a before, then the sign, then the after. So that was kind of like a mess. Plus, it was like doing that thing where it says true, and I was like, that's great that it's true, but it was really just, yeah, it was a mess. So this is helpful. Now that I can see it, I'm like, okay, this is how I need to do it.
Right. So on almost all the problems, I like to create a section that's just a list of my constraints. Okay, you can put it anywhere, but in part B, we learned 2 constraints. I can't spend more than 2 million on any given cost supplier, and supplier 2 has a limit of 25,000. So when I go into Solver in a minute, I need to make sure I've got a calculation that creates a relationship between my solution and a calculated version of each one of these limits. So right here, we already have a sum that we can compare to this 25,000. I'll turn it blue. And we have a max spend calculated that we can compare to this one. So we know when we go into Solver, we've got to make sure that we point Solver at this cell and compare it to this one. Point Solver at this cell and compare it to this one. And we already had the one constraint of the supply that we compared to the demand. Okay, so let's go back into Solver. And this time, all we're going to do is we're going to add constraints. And we're going to say, you know what? Supplier 2 must be less than or equal to this 25,000. Okay, see what I did? Click OK.
Yeah.
I'm going to add another constraint and say that my maximum spend with any given supplier must be less than or equal to $2 million. Say OK. Once I've done that.
What's the other constraint in there?
Say again?
What is the other constraint in there already?
It's this one that we did on part A to make sure the supply is exactly equal to the demand.
Okay.
Yep.
Got it.
Yep. Okay. Now, right now, our solution is $4.831 million with a max spend of 2.9 So, but if I hit solve, say okay. My spend went to $4.80 million with a max spend of $2 million. You know what? I just realized. No, it is minimizing. Okay, never mind. Thought I had a mistake, and I was mistaken about my mistake. So we can see that yes, supplier 2 is less than 25,000. They're right at 25,000 now. We took some away from supplier 1 and gave it to the other suppliers. So if we back up and look at this first tab, we were buying 77,000 units from supplier 1. Now we're only buying 62,000 units from supplier 1. So for you to get credit for this homework, what I want you to do is put lots of comments in here and compare and say, hey, the original solution looked like this. Yep, sure enough, we didn't buy. We bought 0 from the suppliers that didn't want to quote us. But we also bought 0 in some other cases. Like right here, we bought 0 of component 2 from supplier 5. But if you look up here, it's kind of obvious. It was the most expensive supplier for that component. Okay, so put a bunch of comments like that, and put a bunch of comments in part B for what changed and why B is different. Okay, it'd be pretty straightforward. Okay.
Okay.
All right, let's look at chapter 10, exercise 4.
Okay, can I share my screen with you really quickly because I'm having trouble?
Yes,
I don't know if it's something you can help with. I can't even get Solver off my screen right now. Like it won't go away. So
all right, I'll stop share. You share, and I will see if I can help you.
Okay, I've never actually shared my screen before, so. Okay, it says I sent a request to share my screen.
Yep. I clicked allow, so you should be able to click the share now.
Whoa. Okay, there's so many options.
Ooh, I need to make this bigger.
Okay, can you see my... I don't know. Okay, sorry. That's my Spotify. Okay. So, like, I'm trying to press, like, can you see when I even press the red, it won't get Solver off my screen.
And if you hit close, it won't go away either?
Right. Should I just close Excel out altogether? Make it force quit it and then open it back up?
Yeah, try clicking on, try up in the top. Click on the word Excel.
Oh, no.
Now you're in your sticky.
Okay.
Click on the word Excel and see if it'll close and return to Microsoft Excel. See if it'll let you select that. Wow. Oh, it won't. Yeah, you're going to have to force it to close in some fashion, it looks like.
Okay, I think I can do it here. I think I can press quit and it should, like, shut it down. Sometimes that works, or sometimes I just have to restart it altogether.
Yeah.
That's because I can still press stuff on here, but then like it's just changing my objective, which I already had what I wanted, and I don't know.
Yeah, maybe. Yeah, see if you can close everything else you've got open besides just Zoom and Excel.
Okay, let's see. Okay, Spotify. Forced quit Spotify. Okay, so now it's just these two. Maybe that. It's really... I don't know why Excel... Okay, it says debug. Maybe it always says that. But then it won't let me press, like, the debugging stuff. I guess it's probably a waste of our time. I probably just like... I guess I could just watch you do everything and then...
Yeah, I can walk through it. MacBooks are quirky with Microsoft software, for sure.
Yeah, okay.
So you can...
Well, at least we tried.
So you can press Option, Command, and Escape at the same time.
Okay, let me try that.
And it'll pop up a dialog window in theory.
It does.
Yeah, and now you should be able to force quit Excel only. If you actually hang up on me, don't panic.
Okay, no, I quit Excel, but you're still there, so this is perfect.
Okay.
Okay. I'm trying to reopen Excel, but hopefully, yeah, I think it definitely works better if I just have Excel open, but I like to have the textbook and Excel, and then it gets so mad at me. So
Yeah. Well,
it'll work better.
so I've
Just
learned this semester, I didn't know this, but I've learned this semester those electronic textbooks are not as friendly as I would like for them to be. I like that they cost you guys less because I'm not using the whole book. We're only using about 5 chapters out of it. Dr. Newberry and I have talked about maybe just writing a very short book that's free for future students, but haven't had time to think about doing that.
It's a lot to take on with all of the other things.
Yeah, I've got a day job. I teach on the side.
Yeah, your big job.
Yeah. Okay.
I'm trying to get Excel to open back up, but I can just watch, I guess, until then and see.
Yeah, let's just watch how I do it. I'll send you the link to this video. I'll send you the file I work in. Don't be hesitant. You can just send back the same file we work on together. What I'm interested in is seeing if you can interpret what the model is doing, and I want you to have an opportunity to really see how the model works, so that you can use it to get ready for the final exam. And I'll make sure you know exactly what's on the final. So I'm going to go back to, share. I want to share that Excel file. There we go. We back on my Excel now?
Yep.
Okay. So, exercise 4. I can see that my array is this big, okay? So, and here's costs for distribution of locks, and over here are costs of production of locks, okay? So we've got 2 things we're going to solve for on this one. There is, you know what, I'm going to do this for you too, before I forget.
Oh, thank you.
Okay. And something I'll do too, I'll go back afterwards and I'll take a screen capture of what's in Solver and I'll paste it into this file so you can see it.
Oh, perfect. Okay.
Okay, I'll do that at the end.
Thank you.
So I don't want to run out of time with you, and I do have something that's going to compete for my time here pretty soon. So I can see that I've got an array here that's this big. Okay, it's hard to eyeball it. Here's a way to cheat, and make sure you build a decision variable array that's the exact same size and shape. Highlight it, Command C, Command V, and paste it. Yay! Now I know it's exactly the same size and shape.
Perfect.
I'm going to color it yellow. I'm going to put borders all over it because I like it that way. It's not dollars in this solution for the dummy values. It's eaches. How many of each am I going to do? So I'm going to reformat that. I click the little comma and it takes the $sign away. I'm going to take the decimals away. There we go. And it populated my dummy values for me.
Okay.
That's the quick way to do it. Okay. Now,
very quick.
I know, just like the other problem, I want to make sure that I have a supply that's going to be equal to my demand. So I need to sum the number that I'm going to purchase from each vendor or from each location. So my dummy values say that I'm going to buy 9 from Tacoma. Okay. So I want my supply at each location. That's one limit. Then my manufacturers that are in Atlanta, Louisville, Detroit, and Phoenix, they have a limit on capacity. So I know I want to be able to supply Baltimore with the 6,600 they want, but I need to make sure that I don't buy too many from any certain manufacturer. So I need to sum going across as well. Right?
Okay. So yeah, it's like the exact same as the last problem.
Exactly like the last problem. So far it's identical.
Yeah, okay.
Okay. And this is my decision variables. Down here, I'm going to have my objective. I want to minimize distribution cost and production cost. The most common mistake I have seen on this homework problem and on the one just like it on the exam is people work it just like the prior problem, and they do a great job minimizing this is what it costs to ship the locks, but over here is what it costs to make the locks, and they forget to include this part, what it costs to make the locks. Okay, so I'm going to go ahead and put.
Do we still use some product?
We are going to use some product again. Exactly right.
Okay.
Okay, and so I'm going to make that green, put a box around it. I'm going to click the dollar sign because it's going to be dollars by the time I'm done. And I've got some product. The cost by location to ship. So to ship from Atlanta to Tacoma cost me $2.50 per lock, right? So I get all those, and I hit comma, and then I highlight the how many am I going to do from each location to each location, and close that formula. Okay. That's the cost to ship them. Okay. If I wanted to, I could do this in two separate cells, but I'm going to go ahead and do it all in one cell because you're smart and we can see this. I'm going to add to that my total cost of production, right? So I'm going to do another sum product. And we built this formula over here.
Two sum products.
Yep. Yeah, two sum products in the same cell. So we said, hey, using our dummy values, we claim that we're going to ask Atlanta to make 15 locks, right? Louisville make 12, Detroit make 13, Phoenix make 13. So I highlight how much each location is going to produce, comma, and then the cost of production per location. So we're multiplying it by.
Okay, perfect.
So I'm going to let that hover for a second so you can see how the formula looks while the color codes are still in there and everything. Yeah. So some product for the distribution plus some product for the production. Hit return, and it's $2 million. Or $2,000 using our dummy values. I don't care about those decimal places. I'm going to hide them. Okay. Now I'm going to open Solver. Reset all. Our objective is here. We want to minimize it by changing the cells right here, by changing how many we buy from each location. And we don't have any constraints in this problem, do we? 4.
I don't have the textbook open anymore, so I'm not sure.
I've got one here. I'm looking at it.
Okay, perfect.
Nope, no constraints on this one. So I just hit solve.
Okay, so there can be problems that don't have constraints. I feel like I've been really focused now. Like everything has to have a constraint, but not really.
You know what? It does have one constraint. I fell into the classical blunder of this. We have to make sure that our supply equals our demand. It's an implied constraint, and we have a capacity constraint that was stated, and I didn't put either one of those in. So the upside is on a minimized
so
problem.
Implied.
Say again?
So it's implied, so you just kind of have to go
Yeah, you have to realize
that from the data.
Right, because the data said there's a demand and a capacity.
Okay.
I should have put those in. So when I minimized the cost without those, it went all the way to 0. Okay. So let's add those two and see if adding those is enough or if I've got to put some dummy values back in there. So I've got how much I supply to each location must be equal to the demand for each location. Okay. Then I'm going to add.
Okay, and then the capacity has to equal what you bought?
Yeah, bought must be less than or equal to the capacity.
Nice.
So if you chose greater than or equal to on supply to demand, it'll still come up with the same solution usually. And I won't take any points off for that. So I've got those two in there now. There we go. So I feel smarter now. I'm going to solve. There we go.
And much better. Looks much better.
Looks much better. Looks like an actual answer, doesn't it?
Okay. Right. Okay.
Okay. Let's copy this tab. Put it before 10.7. Let's rename it. This is part B. Okay. And part B says how does it change if my production cost per unit goes up by $10 at each
Okay.
plant? Well, this is
Would
very
you just
simple.
manually put that in?
You do. So the simplest way, I'm going to say cost plus $10 is how I'm going to label this cell. Okay. Right? And I'm just going to put a formula right next to my original cost and say that 35.50 plus 10. Whoops. I want it to be dollars. Now it's 45.50, right? So I just built a new column there of what my cost plus 10 looks like. Now what we've got to fix though, over here in our objective function, we said that some product, it's pointing at this group. Easiest way to change a small change like this on a Mac is to double click on that cell so that it knows it's active, and you can just grab this reference and drag it over one. So now it's referencing the plus $10 and hit enter. Now it's there, and I'll go back into Solver. It doesn't give us any new constraints or anything. It just said the costs changed. And I'll run Solver again. Click OK. And you could look and see, did it change anything about where I chose to buy from? And the thing is, it doesn't. Okay.
Okay, so I would just put that in the comments, like.
Yep.
Even though we changed it, didn't. Okay.
Yep. And part of the reason that happened, it didn't really change where we bought from, is because every location went up by the same amount. Okay. And the cost to distribute.
So it's the same.
Yeah, the cost to distribute the locks is significant. So it didn't change the pattern at all. It just changed my overall price. Okay.
Okay.
So I'm going to run out of time with you before we get all this done. So there is not one like this on the final.
Okay, so I could probably figure that one out, I guess.
I have a video I did with another group that I've worked this one. So I will send you the link for that. Okay.
Thank you.
Yep. Let's help you out with this one, okay? Where you struggled a little bit before.
Yeah. A lot of help. Okay.
But you don't need a lot. You're super close on everything, okay? So
okay.
I'm going to copy that one, 8.1. Create a copy, put it here before that one. Doink. Rename it. Whoops. It's actually, this question 2 is the one, there's one like it on the exam. Okay.
Okay.
So I'm going to delete some stuff here, get it out of our way. Okay. So the way you approach this is perfectly fine. What confused you was because you tried to have two problems on the same page. Solver can only have one instance on a tab. So when you would mess with one, it would screw up the other one. Okay. So your approach here was exactly right. So your formula for distance to center 1 is absolutely correct. Your formula for distance to center 2 is absolutely correct. The formula to find out, hey, which one is closer is absolutely correct. And your formula for the weighted for that is absolutely correct. So everything about that is correct. You worked the problem exactly right. Okay. And in Solver, let's make sure it's still pointing at this one, not the other one. Yep. So I want to minimize that one by changing the variable cells. Yep. It's got the right ones. Okay. Solve. Cool. All that works. On the exam, there it adds one constraint. Okay. So let's play make-believe. We have that constraint right now. So here's the minimum distance. Let's say that I don't want any of these minimum distances to be more than 60 miles. And I can see in here I've got a 62, I've got a 67, I got a 66.
Mm-hmm.
Okay, so if I've got an area here that is my constraints, oops, I didn't mean to do that. Okay, I know 60 is my maximum miles allowed. Okay.
Okay.
And this total distance, you had it right before, but I'm going to turn it green because that's my objective in Solver, and you did that correctly. But now this 60 becomes a constraint. I'm gonna highlight it blue because it's just my habit. I like to make the decision variables yellow, the objective green, and all the constraints blue, and I've just done it that way.
It's becoming my habit now too. So
it makes it easier to not miss things. Okay. So all we have to do now is go into Solver, and you had it set up right before on the problem, but on the exam there is this extra constraint that's going to get trotted out for you. So I need to add the idea. Whoops! I got to do something else first. I forgot to do. I have nothing to point Solver at. I'm going to take I'll do it right here. So the maximum distance calculated, okay, so I just used the max formula and highlighted that. So 67.5 looks like the max, and just looking through here, yep, it looks like it calculates right. There it is right there. It found it. Fantastic. So in Solver, I'm going to add a constraint, and I'm going to say that calculated maximum must be less than or equal to this stated maximum of 60. Click OK. I'll click Solve. Say OK. And what you can see now is that this number was 79.99. Now the total blend of distance went up, but now every location is within 60 miles. Yeah, and you can see, because there's a bunch of decimals there, hey, wait a minute, that's slightly over 60. Solver's not super precise. It just gets pretty close. Okay. Fantastic. So that's the added twist on the question on the final exam. Okay.
Is it okay if on the final, or on, like, I guess this would be on the homework again, but on the final, if I take away some of those decimal places?
Absolutely. So the biggest thing
it
on
just kind of makes it.
Yeah. The biggest thing I look for in the exams is, did you lay the problem out correctly, and did you attempt to give me a bunch of comments on what you think the model is doing? That's where I spend my energy grading the exams. The exams are weighted, much lighter than the homework. The homework's worth a lot more points. You're going to be okay. Okay.
Okay.
Now, let's look at this one. Okay. There is a problem.
Okay.
Exactly like this on the exam. Okay. So I fixed yours here. 7A. So this is how I like to lay it out. You laid it out a little differently. Okay, but it still works. Okay. But what I'm going to do, that's the feedback I gave you. I'm going to move or copy. I'm going to create a copy. It's 9.7. Put it right there.
This is the one with the constraints. They got really messed up.
Yeah, it's got you were putting all sorts of information in the spreadsheet, but you didn't tell Solver about it. Solver didn't know. Yeah. Solver felt left out. Okay.
Yeah. Okay.
So I'm going to rename that. Sorry, my screen's really crowded here. I got too much stuff open. Okay, so what I'm going to do, I'm going to delete all this feedback I gave you on the homework. And you did, part of this you did really well, okay? So I'm going to delete the stuff that I added, and we're going to walk through together what I added, okay?
Okay, perfect.
Okay. So you had this already pretty much laid out. You were trying to get there, create the relationships. Okay. So I can see if my formulas are working. I'm just going to put some dummy values in. And one of the things I like to do is, since my demand is 20,000 and 10,000, I'm going to put dummy values in that are in the thousands range. So it's similar to what the answer will probably be. So I'm going to put 2,000, 3,000, 4,000, and 5,000, just for fun. Okay. You had a place here of a calculated supply. Okay. That in a minute we're going to compare to this demand, right? So I'm going to turn those blue for fun. Okay. That's one of my constraints.
Okay.
In this problem, you've got constraints sort of all over the page. So highlighting them makes it a lot easier to find. Okay. You put the hours used. You were trying to do something in this area.
I don't know what I was trying to do.
I think it's easier. Okay. If we stop for a second and do a little reformatting. So this little symbol, the ABC with a little arrow, if you click it, it tells Excel to wrap the text in the cell. Okay. Then this one, it'll center it in the cell. And because I'm uptight, I like to bold mine. Okay.
It just looks better. It
Yep.
helps.
Now I'm going to get rid of this row, or sorry, or column, I mean. Get rid of that column. So that's what the data table looked like in the book. And on the final, I build your Excel sheet for you. I want you to spend more time looking at it. So it's not a PDF next time. You actually get an Excel file that already has the data table typed in.
Okay. Okay.
Okay. Now, what I like to do is make a column for hours used. Right?
Much better.
Hey, here we go. So I know, if I'm going to make 2,000 electronic ones, it takes 0.15 hours per electronic to do that for fabrication. Great. I'm going to add to that the 3,000 battery ones. Very cool. Times my 0.1 hours I need to do for that one. Okay. So now I've got 600 hours used to make 2,000 and 3,000. Now before I start copying this down the page, I got to freeze my references for some of these. So I know that this one here, D5, I want it to stay in row 5. So I'll put a $sign before the 5. And the E5, I want it to stay in row 5. Oh, I don't. Oh, sorry, that's not the one I want to freeze. So over here, the decision variables is the one I want to freeze. So my J6, I don't want it to slide down the page. And my K6, I don't want it to slide down the page. So I can Control C, Control V, and there we go. That's my hours used.
Okay.
All right. I don't need to calculate anything with these. I'll set a constraint inside a solver for that. You could choose to put your calculated cost right here, but you've already got a spot you like down here for it, right? So we can do that. So my calculated cost to make is how many electronic I'm going to make times the cost per electronic to make plus how many battery to make times the cost per battery to make. Okay. And that's my total cost right there. Bink.
Okay.
We have a cost to buy. So how many I want to buy electronic times the cost to buy plus battery to buy times the cost to buy the battery ones. Okay. There's my total cost. Now my total money I'll make is based on how many total I supply. So what I'm going to do is I'm going to say, aha, I supplied 6,000, right? Electronic times I've got a sales price for electronic. Whether I bought it or made it, I sell it for the same price. plus how many battery I made times the sales price for battery. Enter. We don't want this red anymore because this is not feedback on homework. This is tutoring. So that's the revenue. Now, what's my total net revenue or profit? What does it call it in the book? I don't even remember.
I don't know either. But so it would be the sales minus
Bingo. Minus the two costs. That's it.
Okay, yeah, both of the yeah, right.
So my total sales revenue minus the cost of the ones I bought minus the cost of the ones that I made. Bink. Fantastic.
Right.
Okay. Now I got to look at the book. Make sure I get all the...
So that's like probably part A, I guess, or...
Yep. As soon as we run Solver, that's part A. And
right. Oh my gosh, we haven't even done Solver yet. Okay.
Yep. Yeah, that's just calculated off our dummy values.
Is there a question like this on the exam? I don't know if you can tell me
Yes.
that specifically, but...
Yes. So
Okay.
I forgot to put this on here. There is one just like the to location with a total distance limit.
Okay.
One just like it on the exam. And there's one just like this on the exam as well.
Okay.
Okay.
Got it.
So I think all right. So now we're going to go into Solver. I'm going to reset all. My objective is this. I want to maximize that net revenue by changing the cells, all four of these. And I have some constraints. I know that my calculated supply, whoops, I don't need all those. Calculated supply needs to be equal to my demand. Something I've slowly learned is whoever wrote this book, every time they have a supply and demand, they want the supply to be exactly equal to the demand, not greater than or equal to. It ends up working better. Okay. But again, if you accidentally pick greater than or equal to, I'll identify it and I won't take any points off.
Okay.
Okay. I'm going to add another constraint. Oh, I can't add it because I didn't do the formula yet. So what I wanted to add next is, hey, I've got a limit on how many units I can buy. I can only buy 20,000, but I didn't calculate it out here anywhere. So I'm going to have to say, okay, I have to close Solver for the moment. And I'm going to calculate this and say, sum of how many I buy is right here. That's the sum of what was bought, right?
Right. This is when I start to give up on constraints. I'm like, what's going on?
This one has several, so you got to really think through it. Okay. So.
Okay.
Now I'm going to go back into Solver, and I'm going to add that other constraint and say that the sum of what I bought must be less than or equal to this 20,000 limit. I'm going to add one more.
Okay.
My hours used to produce must be less than or equal to my hours available. So when you read the problem, if it says available, that's a constraint. If it says limit, that's a constraint. Okay. I'm going to click OK. I'm going to click solve. And that is the correct answer. Okay. Now,
I
have too many things on my desktop. I am going to copy this tab so we can do part C. So part B is just the comments on part A. I'm going to create a copy.
Oh, okay.
So describe the qualitative pattern. It's the dumbest way of saying, hey man, can you tell me what the model did? I'm going to put it before this one. Rename it Tutory B. Okay. Okay. So for part B, it says, what if you had 10% more hours available for fabrication? Okay. Don't get too cute with this. Just make this 10% bigger And I'm going to do it by putting math in there so you can see it. So if I multiply that times 1.1, now it's 10% bigger, right? So I know I did something to it. I like to bold and italics it if I changed it. Okay. And then all we do is run solver again.
Okay.
Solve. Okay. Ooh, we went from $298,000 in revenue to $301,000. That 10% increase gave me another $3,600 in profit. Fantastic. So in a real business world, if adding 200 hours to fabrication cost me less than $3,600, I would do this all day, right?
Right.
That's all it's asking for on question C, and it wants comments, okay?
Okay.
Now,
so just like what you said, that adding the hours increases the net revenue, basically.
Yeah, and I think on the exam it's the same thing. I want you to, I think I even ask you, hey, which item was your constraint? Which one did you run out of? And the easiest way to do that is to say, create another column here. I'm going to call it slack. Okay.
Okay.
And I'm going to say my available hours minus my hours used is my slack. Okay.
Okay.
All right. So you can see, even after adding 10% on, fabrication is still my limiting factor. I'm running out of hours for fabrication first. I could assemble more and I could ship more if I could fabricate more. That's what question D is, part D is asking. So I'm going to copy this tab again. D. Oops, I named this one wrong. C. Perfect. Now for question D, it says, for how much of a change in fabrication capacity will the pattern persist? So literally it's asking, how much more could you keep bumping fabrication up before something else becomes the constraint? Okay. Easiest way to get to that is say, you know what, I'm going to put a really big number in fabrication and see what stops me instead. So I'm going to change it to 10,000. Okay. And I'm going to go to data, solver, and just run solver again. Click OK. Now I'm going to look over here at my data again. So what became my new constraint? Shipping became my new constraint. It now has 0 slack.
Yeah.
Okay. Out of my 10,000 hours I put in there, how many are slack now in fabrication? 7,500. So 2,500 hours in fabrication is how far that pattern would persist before shipping became the constraint.
That's crazy that you can figure all that out.
Yeah.
So quickly.
That's the point of this class, and people that are going to go this direction in business, this class is great.
Yeah.
I think it's
really
kind of
interesting.
Yeah, I think it's kind of well, I do think it's kind of silly though that. So which masters are you actually pursuing?
Mine's project management.
Project management. So I don't
I
think.
can see how this is useful.
Yeah, but maybe not.
Yeah,
I think
I had another class that was all Excel too, so it's a lot of Excel.
Yeah.
I don't know how much I'll use it, but it's good to know.
Yeah. I personally think this class should be an elective. I don't think it should be a required core course. I think instead you should have the opportunity to select a course in Gantt chart timeline management instead. So either do the Excel analytics or do a timeline management course. So.
Yeah, I think that might be a little more applicable personally, because I was talking to my dad. He said he doesn't use Excel a lot, but it's not as much as this, like not as much of the analytics stuff.
Yeah, I use it intermittently, and when I use it heavily. But I'm also involved in the budgeting process where I work. So when we're trying to predict, what our costs are going to be and things like that. So I'll spend 2 or 3 weeks in late fall trying to predict what the next year looks like. But then I may not touch Excel again for 2 or 3 months, or until I teach a class. So All right. Well, I'm time constrained right now, but
Okay.
I showed you the 4 that have one like it on the exam. I think I already have a video that shows how to set up the really difficult question on this homework set.
Yes. Yeah.
This chapter 9 exercise 14 is hard.
Okay.
I'll dig around and find a video that you can just follow and put it together. But if you'll spend a little energy on the file I'll send you, this one, putting comments in. Don't start a new file.
Yeah.
Just build on this one.
Okay. Yeah.
It's
I'm not doing
okay.
that again. That was dumb.
We'll get you to a B. I assure you. It's
Okay. Thank you.
it's more important for you to really engage with this and have a learning moment than actually get right answers.
Yeah.
So just spend some time and see where you get. And I'll try to get this file sent over in the next half hour or so, and then it'll take an hour or two for this video to upload to YouTube. And I'll get all that out before about noon your time, I think.
Okay.
Yeah.
Perfect. Thank you so much.
You bet. Good luck.
Thank you. Bye.
Bye.